Why do wealthy families hesitate on decisions that structurally need to be made immediately?
I don't think it's just wealthy families. I think anybody, because you're talking about money, and we are obsessed with money, because without it we can't survive. So anything that could potentially affect the status quo of our lives will be a decision that's not taken lightly, but also I'm guessing it's uncertainty. It's the uncertainty of what they don't know. And that goes for anything in life, that you can, if you've got it, it's going to cost something to change. And people are like, oh, yeah, but what if? And it's the comfort thing, isn't it? Again, you're comfortable in your little bubble, in your current status, or in your current state, whatever, in your current lane, you're comfortable there. What if going outside that makes you a little uncomfortable? Maybe it makes you uncomfortable for a year. Maybe it doesn't make you uncomfortable at all. Maybe you're more comfortable, but you don't know. So the devil you know is the one you've got, and you sit with it.
Well, it's mainly as well, I would say, what do you think about it? It's their lack of options. Because of that lack of option, people are used to what they're used to. These families that are requiring these structures aren't necessarily getting the options that can advance where they're going. So maybe that is why they're hesitant, because although they don't want to be in that waiting mind, they don't have the right option yet.
I would say they're not informed. That's the problem. There's options. I mean, they have options. They're just probably limited options, but they're not fully informed of what all their options are.
Does that come down to the advisor, or does that come down to the structure?
I would say a little bit of both, but probably more the advisor, to be fair. I think there's also it's a very difficult one, because you're dealing with essentially tax, which is and people look at tax and once again they're scared of not having money, and they're scared of HMRC in the UK. Now everybody remembers the interview with Donald Trump when he basically said the system's rigged, and they said, how do you know the system's rigged? And he said, well, because I use it. And and he turns to Hillary Clinton and says, well, I know you're not going to change it because all your friends use it too. So he said the system's rigged, which was great, because I remember it and I just mentioned it, but the system isn't rigged. And you remember from a recent webinar sort of thing that we did, somebody was like, why are business owners persecuted? And I said, I don't think they are.
Yeah.
I don't believe they are. No. And the thing is, if you understand the system, then you can use the system to your benefit. And to all intents and purposes, it is there. And this runs on and on and on, because if through millennia people have been successful, the stronger, the more intelligent, the harder working, have risen to the top. Okay? And we're happy with that. I don't think anybody would say that's unfair. I mean, it's just the way that's nature. Mm-hmm. It's a natural, in the scheme of things. Why's he got a better house and a better car than me? Probably because he works harder. He did more work at university, he's cleverer, whatever. Why's he got a better figure than me? Because he trains harder. We all understand that. Mm-hmm. But when you talk about tax, that's never the question. The question is, why does he pay less tax than me? Yeah. And they never ask the question, how do I pay less tax? And that's programmed, and that is programmed. And I don't want to get into politics, because as you know, I have no time for it. But what we're dealing with here is the government is essentially a business that is saying we can't survive because we're running our business really, really badly. It's really terrible. And the only way the business can survive is by raising taxes. Now, it's not because they need the money, it's because they're wasting the money that they have. Because and no other business would survive like that. Okay? So you've got a situation where we're programmed to think that we should pay tax because it's needed. Now, I don't believe it's needed. I think they should address essentially how they spend the money that they raise in the first place, and that should be investigated. And secondly, and you've heard me say this a lot of times as well, if you're the director of a company, I'm the director of a company, whoever, if you take that's a serious job, and you say, well, I have to do best by the company. That's what I seriously have to do. Now, anybody who turns around to me and says, well, the best thing for your company is paying a lot of tax is insane, because it's not. Well, the best thing you can do is pay huge amounts of tax. Well, that'll make the company profitable, won't it? Yeah. That'll make sure that my workers keep their jobs. Yeah. That'll make sure that we have more money to invest next year and grow this company. No, it doesn't. No. So if that's not true, then the reverse would be obvious. Yeah? Yeah. It's my job to make sure that my company pays the tax that it's required to. That's all. Not any more, and certainly no less. No one's trying to break codes or rules or legislation or anything. Just pay what you should. Now, if you offer somebody, like, I'm going to give you £1.50 or I'm going to give you £1, what will they take? Same story. You've got to pay £1.50 in tax or £1 in tax. You reverse it, you've got to pay £1. It's simple.
Question again, it's like, if you could, and this is completely fine, would you take it? The answer is yes. And to the point,
find out how you do that.
Find out, yeah, so that is even back to the original point. The reason they don't make things immediately is because they've been programmed that that's not the way that you should do it, or their structure doesn't allow them to do it. And that's why they can't make quick decisions, that's why they hesitate, that's why the tax bill next year always seems to piss them off.
Yeah, I do think there's a slight turn, a change at the moment. I think people
They're waking up, like.
have got, yeah, what is happening is, I actually, how I see it, people get pissed off.
Yeah.
That's what's happening. People get angry. It's like, Jesus Christ.
But it's also making them curious, which is good, because that energy...
No, I mean, we've been doing this for years, as you know. And the question isn't any, when you speak to somebody, even 5 years ago, they were like, look, it's not that I want to lower my tax bill. And you'd go, oh, okay. I'm just looking to restructure and to get a better idea of how, it's fine. And then as they got to know you, 2 or 3 meetings, maybe less, they would say, how can I save tax here, right? I can mitigate some of these taxes.
Yeah,
and use
that's scared asking as well.
And it was very unfashionable. It was very unfashionable to say, is there a way that I can mitigate taxes? Is there a better way so I can pay what I need to pay, which is less than I'm paying now? Whereas now, you've made people angry, you've sort of flipped a few switches and people are like, I don't care. Why should I? And that, you pushed them a little bit too far.
What is the real cost of delaying structural reform for 6 months? I'll take care of it later.
Well, you can't say. It's impossible. Because that's fortune telling, isn't it? I mean, you don't know because there's so many variables and multiples in that equation that you can't say. When we say that the client's got to want what we do, we can't push or sell, that's true. However, the question that they always ask, and which you've just asked, is the one that it makes it sound like we're being pushy, but it is quite obvious. I mean, if you think about it, when should I start planning? Like now.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, well you would say that. Yeah, because it's true. I mean, let's be honest. If somebody said, "Oh, when should I start planning?" and I said, "In a year's time, will be fine," that would be.
They probably doubt.
Why in a year's time? Why in a year's time? What's happening in a year?
He's saying now it's like.
It's an obvious answer, though, isn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, the real answer is you already should have started it years ago. That's the real answer. But you can't really quantify the cost of delaying it.
Yeah, because
it probably won't actually cost you. It won't cost you anything. You won't gain anything.
No.
So that's probably the difference. What could you gain? But that's each individual business, each individual entrepreneur, founder, whoever. So what more will I have? What can I gain? What does the future look like on the upside of this, rather than what do I lose by not doing it? Because intrinsically, you probably won't lose anything. You're just going to stay where you are. It's going back to comfort again. I know what I've got. I know what I'm getting. I know what I've got to pay. And if you think about it, and I know I'm off at tangents here, but you are literally taxed on success.
Yeah.
How does that work in a meritocracy? How does that genuinely work? So the better I do, the more, and I know I'm going to upset a lot of people, so the better I do, the more I have to pay. Yes. Okay. So you're actually encouraging me not to do better. That's the blue headline to me. That's the one that I see. Well, so the better I do, the worse off I'm going to be. Well, no, you're better off. That's why we're taking more of your money, isn't it?
Well, I remember we were chatting I think he'd be a client someday, but he was a good individual, and he was doing 500,000 every year, and he wanted to do more, but he convinced himself out of it because he's like, if I do more, I'm just giving away more.
Yes.
Now the answer was a restructuring strategy we showed him, and within 15 minutes he's like, oh, okay. And that made him go, there's a way for me to just create more and access more of what I create, rather than just be, which it is, and which we accept, and even to the point, all this is a leadership change of going, I'm going to take charge now, and actually just see what options I have. And he's changed since, which has been good.
I think that it's individual again. It comes down to whether the guy wants to, or the lady, whatever, wants to grow the business.
Wants to do.
Yeah, and sometimes, and I get it. You know, you think, well, I'm going to put in an extra 12, 15 hours a week, and only maybe 2 of those hours are actually going to be profitable, and the rest of it, I'm just, and that, so there's a cost in that. There's a cost in your time, your energy, the amount of time that you're away from family, loved ones, doing something that is not business orientated.
The cost of bad advice.
Yeah, and you know, your round of golf might go out the window. You can't play 7-a-side football. You know, you don't get to spend time with your kids. You're giving that up, and then what you're doing at the same time is that time that's given up. You say, like, 50% of it ain't yours anyway because we're taking it. That seems unfair to people, and I think that's why they look at it and say, well, why would I do that?
Now we'll go back and forth in this question because we want to not say offensively and defensively, but the question is, okay, how do you know when a client is ready to operate offensively instead of defensively?
I'm going to tell you. It's that simple, isn't it? I mean, it literally comes down to that it's that sort of green light moment or the little light bulb, and they go, right, okay, I want to do this. And you can't tell. Like, you can't. I mean, God knows we talk about, you know, is this guy, do you think that this is perfect for this guy? Do you think he's going to, you know, he's going to go through it? Has this worked really well for him? And then you don't hear from him. He might come back, 6 months later. You just don't know. I've given people attempting to sort of figure that out. Because you're delving into human psychology there. You know, for some people, I mean, the most surprising people have turned around and go, right, well, let's do it within like 48 hours of the call. Yeah. And you're like, okay. And in that respect, sometimes you're sort of like, okay, let's have another chat about this. Because you just want to make sure, you know, but they're like, no, they're firing on all cylinders and let's go. And that's surprising. And then there's other people that, as I just said, you think this is absolutely bolted on. It's perfect for what you're doing right now and how it could improve your company, your companies, your business as a whole, and make you wealthier. And it's like, I don't know. And you think, wow, okay. That's I think but what tends to happen then is we tend to question what did we miss there. And I mean, I went through quite a period of time of trying to work that out, and I've given up on that now. Because I know that because of the amount of time we've been doing this and because of the amount of success stories we've had, I know it's nothing that we're doing. I mean, don't get me wrong, we can always improve. Everybody can always improve. You know, we can always evolve, etc. But I don't question why people do and don't, because it's the individual choice again, isn't it? Yeah,
like one of the things I remember from the beginning of work with you as well is the idea of warm and hot. And you were just off the bat being like, your opinion on this is going to change very quickly because you just don't know.
Yeah.
You never know. You know something is hot whenever the decision has been made.
There's that last thing, isn't there? And anybody is, you know, it's not done until the money's in the bank. I know we don't use checks anymore, until the check is signed. It's that simple. Because we do live, certainly more so than we did years ago, in a society that will tell you what you want to hear rather than what they're actually feeling. And Christ knows, nobody has to worry about hurting our feelings. You know, and just saying no, it's like, no worries. You know, you know where we are if you want another chat. Yeah. But no, the hot and warm thing, I mean, you're setting yourself up. You are setting yourself up, and you know, because you'd be like, okay, these are this, and this is for a warm, and these two are hot. And I'm like, okay, yeah. And so, you know, let's go to the races. You know, and it's like that. You just cannot tell.
You can't tell, but all we can do, as you say, is just improve, educate better. But I think one of the best things that we do for that is showing people their strategy before they even act on it.
Oh,
which
of course.
Is one of the rarest things, and this is what we do, is people can have a full-on immersive experience on what is achievable with different options that they haven't had access to before. They've never seen laid out so pristinely, so accurately before they even made that decision.
Yeah, I mean, I've said to Carl on numerous occasions, and I probably still say it quite a bit in different contexts. It's not our job to educate people. And it's become more and more apparent that it actually is our job to educate people. And when I say it, but I don't like the educate thing, because that puts you in a school, university, tutoring environment, and that's not what we do. So the education I don't like I don't like the education word, but it is our job to explain and show people, if you will, as you've just said. And in some respects, you could say we're educating people, but we're educating them on options, choice, opportunity, not it's this way and this way only.
Which is the standard product idea. Like me and Carl just had a chat there about we're just showing the business owner, the founder, the family enterprise what they do have access to if they go into corporate structuring. And of course, corporate structuring from the outset can just be like, oh no, big glass building, sterile mentalities, nobody cares, too many higher ups, too many supervisors. But no, this is just it's another access of tools. It's a different kit that you can use for your business and actually put you in power position to see how you're losing, see how you're leaking, and also see who you want to use, rather than be going back every year and wondering if you're getting the best treatment, am I getting the best product. You actually have the decision power now to control it all and then benefit more than you ever have, which I find quite interesting. So we're just showing essentially what is there and what can be used.
We're pulling the curtain back.
Which people like and people don't like. You know, when people like us, they really like us. When people don't like us, they don't want to talk to us.
I think that normally falls on the side of other professionals. There's never been when you say people don't like it, I've never come across a client who didn't like it.
No, never came across a client that didn't like us. Have came across professionals who saw us as a threat because we're showing the clients. Nothing against your advisor.
Somebody both know summed this up the best. And it wasn't even to do with the self-administered. Why hasn't he? Why didn't he do that? So if he could, and he knew he could do that, why didn't he do that? And I think that's the other thing. We are very active. We're certainly not lazy. We're very, very diligent in what we do. And with that in mind, we bring a lot of knowledge to the table, and I understand that for some professionals it's often overwhelming. And the immediate thing is pushback. But that's nothing to do with us. Once again, that's to do with, that happens in all walks of life. Somebody comes along and shows you something and it's overwhelming, you just, no, I mean, there's a meme out there somewhere with Drake doing that, I think.
But, for the curious client, they know from the outset, they know from seeing the strategy, and they also know from our openness of like, listen, if you need to chat to one of our guys, one of our accountants, one of our barristers, we can integrate all of this before anything ever goes forward. Because once you see that we're not out here to steal or threaten, we're here to literally, as you say, uncover what is actually happening or what could occur.
Well, we had a recent call with somebody who brought their accountant on. It was quite comical because the first question from the client was, so what's the name of accountants, roll in this afterwards? And clearly this had been a conversation that they'd been having. And the accountant just bolted. Said, no, but that doesn't matter. But obviously it did because it was the first thing that came up. We sort of hesitated. So are we answering, we can answer it, it's not a problem. And the accountant's like, well, let's start here. And that was clearly all the accountant wanted to know.
Yeah, am I still involved?
How am I still involved?
Let's actually ask the question because people probably want to know. The client wants to work with us, they want to know, can that accountant still be involved?
Well, I would hope so. It's up to them, isn't it, once again?
Yeah.
We're not accountants, we'll never be accountants, we're never going to be bookkeepers. So we're not going to take that role on. It's whether, if they're your accountant and you want to retain them as your accountant, you retain them as your accountant and nothing changes. Okay? That's it. I'm never going to tell somebody you should have this person for an account or that person for an accountant. Once again, it's choice. It's up to them. But they're going to need an accountant, whoever it may be, because we're not going to be it.
Okay, so what are we actually doing then? An accountant to be on board, but then the other side. So what is Mural Crown bridging essentially?
Well, you actually said it a minute ago, we're restructuring. It's a corporate restructure. The sort of thing that you would see big institutions and multinationals do. Setting up SPV subsidiaries, doing it in ways that are very, very tax efficient. But they still need accountants because they need someone to do their accounts. But they need somebody to do a corporate restructure. Now, if you go to one of the big four, for example, accountancy firms, for a corporate restructure, you'll get one department. You won't get the department that is actually doing the bookkeeping. They're going to be separate. However, that accountancy firm, whichever one they may be, are not going to be able to do all the things that we do because they're an accountancy firm. Do they have barristers involved? Do they have knowledge of trust law? It's unlikely. In fact, they don't. So we're covering all of those bases. And that's where the corporate restructure comes in. And then you need somebody to act as your accountant. So we are essentially doing the corporate restructure that, as I say, any large multinational would think is pretty standard at the very top end of, business.
It's funny, actually, I was in a sauna a couple of months ago in Portugal. I was introduced to this guy, a friend of mine, a friend of a friend, and he and his family own one of the biggest property developments in the UK. And my friend was like, he and his family run a full family office, you should go over and have a chat, see if there's any similarities, see what's going on. And we got talking for about 10 minutes, and I just gave him a rundown of how we structure and how we strategize, how we work with clients' accountants, how we work with our barrister, how we're in the middle to make sure that gap is took care of, and the results, the fiduciaries, all the inner machinations of it all. And his answer was, it's not too far off what we're doing.
No.
The difference is they've got everybody in house.
It's not shared family office, and fees, obviously. The other thing is, I'm probably not as against the whole fees thing as people imagine I would be. What it's against, if you want to pay fees, pay fees. If you, I'm great. Me, I like delegating when I can. If I can get somebody else to do something that one I don't want to do, or two I'm not good at, I'm going to do that.
Like in LinkedIn posts.
You know what I mean? Social media in general, my friend. But no, so if people want to employ an in-house lawyer, an in-house accountant, an in-house tax advisor, and then somebody who acts as an in-house concierge, and then somebody who also manages funds and makes investments, and it could be like multiple different investment managers, and they want to do that, that's fine, because that's not our client. So good luck to them, because that's the direction they want to go. Our client is the guy, as you know, that doesn't want to do that, that wants more control. And you see, this is something else again. People say, it's a control freak. When it comes to businesses, if you're not, fucking do it. If you don't want to control every aspect of your business, then what are you doing? You're not telling me that, and that there's some big names that we're going to talk about, or could talk about. The most well-known guys on the planet for being very, very wealthy, and the businesses they have. You think they just sit on yachts now? Do they? No, they're on the shop floor. They are immersed in that business. Of course they're control freaks. I've got that story. I worked for a guy when I was very, very young, and I went to meet him on a building site. He was massively wealthy. And you won't even know what brick tie is, but it's a little bit of metal that goes between two walls, essentially, to stabilise it. And they cost pennies. But if he saw them laying on the floor, he would go absolutely mental. Because to him, it's wasted. That was his money. He saw his pennies dotted around the building site. And he'd walk that building site. Now you can say, control freak. Yeah, control freak. He had his fingers in so many pies. He had garages, he had car rental companies, sales companies. And when I say garages, I mean mechanics. He had building sites. He had clothes shops. I never had a problem with him. He wasn't a very likeable character by other people's. He was unliked by a lot of people because of his manner, maybe. But it was mainly because he was absolutely in control of what he did. And if you're in business, I don't see a problem with being a control freak. You should be. You should be in control. And that's the guy that we're looking for. That's the guy that's our client. Not the guy that wants to say, listen, you take care of this. It's the guy that says, no. It's the guy that can't, it's like, look, I wonder what they're doing about that. No. So I want to make my investments. And the thing is, I think it's becoming more and more prevalent now that people do that. Because I've spoken to quite a few people recently who, they're managing their own pensions. They're managing their own investment portfolios. And I'm not saying that they're speculating. That's not what I'm saying. I'm not saying, I bought some Bitcoin and then it went up and it's down and no, they're literally studying the markets, they're making informed investments and they're doing it themselves, and some of them are outperforming, well-known UK fund managers. So I think there's more people that actually want that control. And we talk about the difference between Structurally, there's not. The main difference, and I know everybody adds fees because it's a great headline, but to me, it's not really. It's about how much you want to run the show, and you know what I'm like. You know, I don't see. Someone's always got to be taking the lead. Someone's got to be responsible. You have a manager of a football team. You don't have a committee. It's the same thing. That's the same in business. So he's got to be in control. Because if he's not in control, then he's just given control away. And it's when it goes tits up, it's still his fault.
It's probably a fact that a lot of business owners do actually have. You know, they've got two aspects of this. It's a negative connotation or a sort of successful connotation of control freak. And those that own it in the positive sense go very, very far. They're like, I don't care if you think I'm a control freak. I literally am taking care of all my bases right now, even to the level of my advice. Not to say people are bad with advice, but these people know that there's a limitation to standard advice, and they're just not going to get bogged down by it, and they're going to be curious enough to discover what else is out there.
It's funny because you're absolutely right. And it is funny because people see control as a dirty word.
Yeah, like tax efficiency.
But it's because it's been also brought into relationships.
Yeah.
He's a control freak. You know what I mean? He's a control freak, or she's a control freak. Normally means it's between in a relationship. But I watched a very well-known comedian talking about this very thing. And he's written screenplays and TV series and stuff like that. And they were asking him, do you have any sort of fears? And he started to list them. And they was very surprised. And he said, it's because I am a complete and utter control freak. And he said, the thing is, because of who I am and what I've done and what I do, when I do what I do, it's my way, there's the door. Mm-hmm. There is no conversation. You know, I have it all my own way. I'm a total control freak. Mm-hmm. He said, then when the stuff's out of my control, then I get nervous. So it's, once again, it's personalities.
How do you dance with that idea though? Because obviously being too much of a control freak sometimes can blind you from what you want to see, because, well, suppose it comes down to your own bias. Are you wanting to always be right, even at the own cost of your control?
Doesn't matter, does it?
Well, how do you let it in?
But you see, it doesn't matter, because at the end of the day, it's you that gains or suffers, and your decisions. Then what you're coming down to is, then if I've gained, did I learn how I gained, and did I learn something from that gain? Or conversely, did I learn something from this loss, from this suffering? Mm-hmm. So that's just self-awareness. That's a totally different thing. Mm-hmm. So you know, blinded. If you're blinded consistently, that's different. That's what you're saying. But that's nothing to do with being a control freak. That's just trying to do. You're trying to prove the system wrong, or you're trying to prove something else wrong. That's not about being a control freak. That's your personality. Mm-hmm. You keep trying something and it keeps failing. You keep trying it again, it keeps failing. It's like going around in circles and going around in circles and going around in circles, and then going, I don't know why this doesn't work. Doesn't matter, but it doesn't work. So change it. Oh, no. That's not control freak. So you're not blinded by being a control freak. You're just not learning. You're just not self-aware.
No, it's people who actually think they are a control freak, but really they're not.
No.
And they are.
I was just saying, it's a dirty word, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's a dirty word. So
it's actually, well, it's one, if you actually genuinely are one, it is good to own that.
Well, you know I do. I will literally sit on and talk about legacy, and you know my son works with us, and I say he's getting no control for the foreseeable future. Mm-hmm. And this is something I've learned this. It's been quite a curve for me, that I do run everything like here all the time, and trying to pass on what I want doing and how I want it achieving. In my mind, is difficult to relinquish because somebody sees it differently. But then, you see, I'm not passing control, I'm delegating. But it's still difficult.
Well, you know the result you want to achieve, and that's the whole thing, isn't it? And then you can delegate. But if you're just delegating, hopefully, that somebody else will take care of it.
I think, that's what I say, like I mentioned, obviously, my son wanting to be in control of things for the foreseeable future. Having said that, I think it's been good to let other people do stuff and let them have a free rein. Because at the end of the day, we go back to it again, I'm accountable. If the team performs well, then it's true. It's the team. Well done, team. Mm-hmm. If the team performs badly, it's the team leader or manager. And that's what it is, isn't it? Mm-hmm. So, although I think that's the other thing when people talk about control, they don't want the responsibility. A lot of people don't want the responsibility. And that, once again, is what makes a good client for us. Somebody who wants to take accountability and responsibility and knows, like, okay, this is on me. You know, so, right, let's do this. I'm taking this path. Mm-hmm. You've got to have that positive mindset.
That's good. Yeah. Right. I don't know if these are all negatives. I think that was a very good answer, by the way, for the offense and defense. So hopefully that's good. What behaviours signal that a family is about to lose control of their wealth?
See, once again, you ask these questions and it's sort of like, right, this morning, okay, we were talking about my daughter, and my wife completely shat on my analogy, but I think it's true. So she's doing tummy time, for example, and she's strengthening her back and everything, and Michelle says she's not crawling yet. And she knows mothers that have had babies at the same time, and some are crawling, and you start to ask them why, and then you never notice when she starts, and you can't remember, oh, she started then. That was her, it's like the first steps. They stand, it's like the first, it's a difficult one, because they stand and do a little bit of a wobble and take a step forward and back, and there's that step, so, right, it's the same with the family, you never know. You don't know what it does. It's very, very rare, even if there's a massive dip like 2789 or back in the 80s. It's very, very rare that it's just there and gone, unless a company, family, whatever, is massively leveraged. I've actually, one of my very, very, very good friends back in the day, family-owned football club, very, 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 very big business, in the billions. So great, could literally phone up and land banking all over the place. I've seen some land, phones the bank, right, I'm buying that. Okay, and he's just prepared, there was just buy it. When the crisis came and the banks started cutting back this, and then the interest rates suddenly, and then so when you've got these high figure debts and suddenly your assets are worth less, that's an immediate pop. It's just going to happen, and then you've got to sell everything off. It goes to receivership, etc. But generally speaking, you don't see people losing their wealth. It seeps, it leaks away, it trickles, and you don't. Because if you did see it, you do something about it, and you often, and this goes back to planning, you often don't see it until it's too late. But if you plan, you and this is, it's vision again, isn't it? If you plan, you see it. You've got the vision, you've got it all mapped out. If it's not going that way, But this is more of a bury head in the sand thing, because things aren't going well. You can't know, because they did go well. So I'm going to hope that they go well again. So we'll just stay where we are, and then it's just, but all we need is, or when this happens, or maybe the budget, maybe the interest rates, whatever it is, you're relying on external things out of your control again. And it seeps and drips and leaks away, and then suddenly it's like,
it's funny how that is the inversion, though, to the previous thing we talked about, which is being a control freak.
Very
Though it can have that negative connotation, but the control freak isn't going to lose control of their wealth. They're going to make sure whenever even passes down and how the family takes care of it, they're fine too.
100%.
Because they are a control freak.
Yeah.
So yeah,
I think it goes back to that propagandised again of taxing as well.
The negative way of it.
Yeah, because it's like, I've worked hard for this, and I want them to have it. Now I know, that certain people who I come from nothing, they start from nothing as well, and I fully respect those people. Not a problem. That is your choice. It's your money. They're your children. Do what you like with them. It's and them. However, there was a lot of people that was like, I worked for this. I sweat blood for this. I made sacrifices for this. My wife made sacrifices for this. We really worked to get to this point. With every sinew of our body, we fought to get here, and now I want to make sure they don't have to. That's is that control free?
No, I think that's honour for your family.
I mean, you can frame it in lots of different ways. There's the same people who don't want to do it, that's fine.
Yeah.
But I do think that if people feel like that, that's the point where you say, well, there are options. You should be able to do that. That's the difference. You should be able to do that. I think, and when we talk about knowledge, there's something not a lot of people know. There is a way I can do this, of course. There's some very big family names in the world, as you'll know. They didn't lose it all after a generation. In fact, it grows and grows and grows. Now, that does come with education, and I think that's something that we have in common with multi and single family offices. that we've tried to introduce that, certainly Carl has got his eye on that very much, is that how do you, when do you educate the next generation? And in all honesty, I'm of the opinion it's, you know,
as soon as possible.
Yeah, I mean, one, they should, I mean, where I lived recently, like kids have set out stalls, you know, sell fruit or soft drink, lemonade that they've made themselves, or, you know, some sort of thing like that. I don't think, you know, and I know people who are like, you know, bit turn the nose up at it. I think it's, I like that. I like the idea of getting to know. And if you actually, okay, fruit, you've got to pick it so you give it time. And then you're going to sell it for money, so time versus money. It's the same, but if you're making a drink, then it's probably going to be ingredients in it. If you start off with that and children understand that, then, and we're talking like 8 and 9, then by the time they're 12 and they're heading into the early teens, you should be starting to educate them on finance. And I'm not, and this is, I mean, this one gets me. I've had this conversation with people, a lot of people my age, and they'll say, well, I have educated them on finance. And I'm like, no. What you did was, you got them a good credit rating. And you got them a good credit rating by leveraging them to hell and literally piling debt on them. And they're like, yeah, but they've got a good credit rating. That's not finance.
No.
That's quite the opposite. And then you've got this 21-year-old who probably owes about, I mean, they can get a mortgage. Yeah. But they're not going to pay it because they're already paying like, you know, $1,000 a month because to get that credit rating, to get the mortgage. And I don't think that's not financial education, but yeah, that's very common.
No, bringing your family in pretty early is good. Like, that's the reason I'm in the position I'm in, is because my father was initially a client of yourself. One of the things he wanted to make sure, even though I was doing my own thing, and like I see clients we work with now, their kids are doing their own thing, I get that. But those that actually want to work on that succession plan as they're alive, just bring their kids in and say, just sit down for 30 minutes. This is a meeting we're going to have maybe once a week, twice a month. I want you on these calls with the guys.
Well, that's what I'm doing with my son.
Yeah,
and I'm not being rude. It's like, come on, turn your mic off if you're on a Zoom. Sit in. You don't need to say anything. Experience. Feel the room. Feel the vibe.
Yeah.
Understand the people. Understand the conversations. That's important. Very important.
That's also what I love that we're doing as well. We are changing the idea of what a succession plan means.
That's what I'm saying, and that's something that family offices, or certain family offices have been doing for some years. And I know for sure, through following obviously the family office sort of sector, that it's happening more and more. I do think, I mean, you're in a lucky position. You mentioned yourself. Your father is in financial services, so you've grown up around it.
Yeah.
And you probably don't realise just how much of that's rubbed off on you. I mean, you probably think, oh, a little bit has.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, but I think you don't realise just how much.
No.
Because it's the same thing with my other son, Andre, as you know, works for an asset management company. And he went into that just blind. And it surprised me how well he took to it and how he just grew. And we were talking about one day, and I'm making like I'm sounding blown and smoking my own ass. I was saying so, I said, yeah, wow, I'm impressed. He said, I had a good teacher, didn't I? And I didn't think he was talking about me. And he was trying to give me a compliment. I'm like, oh, who? And he was like, you twat. And he said, oh, I've been around this my whole life. Yeah. And I'm like, oh, well, yeah. He said, you know, you used to take calls in the car with you. We were kids. We'd sit in the back and you go, shut up, I've got to take a call. And I've got like a hands-free mic, so, you know, back in the day there was a little mic, like you'll spread the side of the screen. And he said, yeah, we had to listen to all, it was like, music going off now, is it? He said, well, we had to listen to all those, you know. And this is true. I mean, it sounds really bad in some respect. I'd take him to business meetings with me. Sit there. Just because if I'm going to have a 2-hour business meeting, I've got an hour there and an hour back, I've got 2 hours where I'm on my own. And then I could probably do something while I'm there with them. So yeah, and I never thought about that. So that's an education, and that's why I say, I mean, I don't know, and he probably doesn't know, and you don't know. But I think including them, like as you just said, is huge. Yeah. It sets the tone. It also makes you respect. This is I think something that's really important, that the next generation has got to respect the process. That's important. You've got to respect the process, because if you trust the process, then it's not saying it can't evolve, not saying that the founders, I founded this business and it's going to remain like this forever, because nothing ever does. What I'm saying is, if you trust the process and the way the process is evolving, then the next generation has got to also respect the process of the predecessor. That's got to be, and they only do that by seeing it up close and personal.
Yeah, you can't just expect to land into something and run it. No. And that is why people coming in at such a younger age, even my age younger, 26, it's crucial, because you got to see how it's run. You got to see how your father, your mother, how they understood it, why they set it up, because it means whenever it's your time, which will happen, although you may be off in your own world right now as a kid, doing what you do, building your career, you may not be trusting the process. You may not even understand your own family's process. And just again, taking maybe an hour a week to get into it just means you'll be ready for it when the time comes.
I think that that's why this whole idea of what we do is important, because and this, you use the word structure a lot, but this actually does structure it in a way that it's integral to the Self-Administered Family Office, which is what we're trying to, which is the next generational push. I think that in this day and age, it's all too easy for people to watch a YouTube video and believe that they can do something, or watch a YouTube video of a CEO, or I think there's something called Masterclass now. Yeah. Right. And watch one of those and think, oh, well, I know what I'm talking about. There's nothing. They're holding a masterclass because they've got trust. I think people are prepared, but they think that is a generational thing. I think it's turning again more now. There's more uncertainty in this next sort of age group. Millennials, I think they thought they know it all. Is it Gen Z or whatever? Yeah. I think they're saying, oh no, we don't.
Yeah, well, the idea of trusting the process, I look around me, my peers, I'm quite happy to say that I've, over the years, have developed great relationships. You let go of ones that aren't going anywhere, but so few people my age today do not trust the process because they don't even know what they're going for.
I'm not defending your generation because, generation. No, but I'm saying that. But I do think there was a moment, and I can't tell you when it happened, where hope was just taken off the table very quickly. It was there and then it was gone. There was that. I don't know years. I'm I'm bad line on years, but the whole Tony Blair Britpop thing of that, things have never been better. That was back in the 90s. I think good way it is. So anyway, around there was hope. There was a great deal of hope, and people had, and the younger generation, the youth had hope. Okay, there was a rebel, of course you're young, but there was hope, and I think at some point it was gone. Nobody knew when it was snatched away, but no one saw it. It was there one minute and gone the next. And I think that's difficult for people to actually look now and think, well, I'm probably never going to own my own home. Don't get me wrong. Work hard, and you can achieve something and get to. But I think as a blanket, a majority of people feel overwhelmed by the lack of hope. And that's another. I'm going off on tangents again here, but that's something that we don't deal in, which is the fear of despair. I was talking to a guy who's a well-known marketing sort of expert, and the common ground, the guy that was introduced me to, and he said, we were laughing about sex sells, and I said, yeah, but it won't sell our products. It won't sell our products. It won't sell our services, let's say. And he said, I guarantee you. He said, if you put a link, he said, put a post out with, a sex kind of sells in your mind image out there. I'm not going to say what he said, but if you put this image out there and do a post, he said, and then do another one. He said, and on the third day, do a post and put the link that you want people to click into. And he said, because of those first two sexually orientated posts, and I'm not talking sexually orientated, but you understand the visual, whatever. Yeah. Right. He said that will get more interaction. Now, because I'm a fool, I'll go, the interaction is irrelevant. He's like, no, but it's not. Because when you get more interaction, the algorithm sees it, and then you're going to get more, and it gathers momentum. But I'm not fully convinced by the whole sort of sex sells thing.
Well, it sells to those who are chasing it
Yeah.
or want to see it. We're all sold at the end of the day for the things that we're actually looking for, and sometimes we're looking to be fooled. But most of the times, and especially when it comes to people we work with, they just want to win, and they want to know that they now have the control to win as much as they want.
I think there's less people actually want to win than you think.
Of course.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, of course. But I mean in the realms for the people we work with, they're all winners.
Yeah. So once again, I don't think it's a lie.
You don't think they're lying to themselves? No?
Lying's probably harsh. We've discussed this on an occasion. I actually believe that people know. You always know. If a partner is cheating on a spouse, the spouse normally has an idea. You know what I mean? There's normally signs, and they normally just ignore them. And I don't think people lie to themselves as much as they don't want to confront truth. That's the difference. They don't want to. And we go back to comfort again. Here's an uncomfortable truth.
Yeah. You have to deal with it for a bit. Like,
Yeah.
Nah, I like what's familiar.
Yeah.
Like, these conversations can be so simplified, but people do want to just hear about the extended version of, like, how am I kidding myself? Or I just need to hear the right sentence for me to stop kidding myself. Again, another thing we tied in. When do these things click with people? When does it click with a client? When do they know? Whenever they see the truth.
Oh yeah, okay, yeah.
It's whenever they see the truth is whenever they pick up the phone and go, Alex, Adam, let's go.
Yeah.
But that's for them to see in their own time.
Yeah, because that can take time.
It can take, of course, it can sink in, it takes time. Your mind's an interesting thing, like, but again, all you can do is whenever you see all your options, you'll know it's true.
Yeah. But I'm not sure people do lie to themselves. I just think they don't want to face uncomfortable truths.
Yeah,
and I think it's easier, it's rather than a lie, it's just sort of like papering over something over there.
Well, it's bias. It's bias. They're stuck in a bias. They're stuck in a comfort. You know, the comfort has dividends to a degree, but it doesn't have what you actually want to achieve. Like, even to the simple question of, like, how do I pay less tax? For those that want to know how to pay less tax, they stop asking that question in 3 months. For those that don't really want to know the answer, they'll always ask that question because they just don't want to know.
Well, they don't ask how they can pay less tax, they ask why he's paying less tax or why they pay less tax.
And for the ones that want to move,
The ones who want to move,
you
see, this is the other thing, because it's difficult because once we're talking to a client, then tax becomes part of the discussion. But really and truly, there's so much more going on. Because once again, it goes back to that, we can show you a structure that will allow you to grow your business and there are tax benefits. But
it's the byproduct, it's not the actual goal.
Well, I find it difficult, and we're going back to marketing now, because I actually don't like lying in marketing. I know that sounds really crass because marketing is all about lying.
Persuasion.
Yeah. But I don't like making outlandish statements or headlines, because to me it is this does all this, and there's some tax benefits as well, a lot of them, but they're basically there to help you grow more wealth. Which means it's like that thing, you know, you're going to pay, and ironically, you'll pay more tax potentially than you're paying now, but you'll be earning, you know, you're probably paying twice as much tax as you're paying now. Fucking hell, but you'll be earning 5 to 10 times more.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Right. You know, so there are tax benefits, but it's growth again. You know.
Okay, so what do you see as a mindset shift that separates a high-income individual from someone who actually becomes a dynasty builder?
Sorry, ask that again.
So somebody who's just focused primarily on just being a high-income earner, rather than someone who's more focused on becoming a dynasty builder.
I mean, the most obvious and probably maybe the only real one would be the fact that the person who it's immediate satisfaction rather than long-term gratification.
Yeah.
Somebody who's, if you, what you're doing when you're trying to just earn more money is you're looking down, you've got tunnel vision, you've got blinkers on, however you want to say it, and you're just like, whatever it takes to get to there, I need more, and I need more, and I need more. But what you haven't got is a plan of what you're going to do with it. So that's, you know, it's a conversation. I actually left a note because both my sons were out at the weekend, had a bit of a jolly together, and it's a classic with them. You know, it's like they're going to meet at midday, and we'll be finished by 3 in the afternoon, have a bite of lunch, and then, etc. At 9 o'clock at night, still,
Starts with good intentions.
Yeah. And so I left them a little voice note to mess with them. Of course. And basically said it's 9 o'clock, it's 9 o'clock the same night, I've just got out of a 12-degree pool sort of thing, freezing cold, and I'm off to bed, and it's like 8:30, so I've got an early start tomorrow morning, And when the honeymoon of you slapping yourselves on the back and telling yourselves how great and successful you are, one of you will fucking realise that we're building an empire here, and when that happens, or when it both happens, let's go.
Yeah.
And what happens is it gets through to them. Yeah. But the initial reactions. But the thing is, and this is the other thing that I mean, I'm going to say this, and it doesn't sound very good, I guess, but when we talk to a client, and I've said this to you, we don't have to pressure them, we don't have to hard sell them, no. And I would say you've learnt, we don't have to follow up with people. You don't have to follow up. And when the follow-up, if you just do a normal follow-up with somebody and they don't reply, no problem. Don't follow up again. No need. No. Because, as you've now learned over a period of time, once we've spoken to them, those thoughts, those options, those choices, those opportunities are in their head, and they're not going to go away. And it's niggling at them, because if somebody shows you a shortcut, a better, I'm going to drive from A to B, it's going to take me 2 hours. Okay, I can show you a way where you will save yourself 40 minutes. I know the way I go. While you're driving backwards and forwards 2 hours every day, sooner or later you're going to think, okay, well, what's that? How do I save 40 minutes? Yeah. And that's what happens. We're there. That's good. We have made an impression, and the information, however much, depending on the client or potential client, is out there, doesn't matter. We've had that conversation. And as you know, months can go by and then they'll be back. I mean, literally months, maybe a year. And then suddenly can we have another call? Yeah, of course. But you can't chase somebody like that. No. And it's the same, what's happened with my sons, they're like, yeah, great dad, but it's there. Yeah. And they can't get away from it. They can't unsee it, they can't unhear it, and it may be uncomfortable, and they may not like it, but they will be. Right, okay. There's only going to be one option, that's what we're doing. Yeah. So just let me know when you're ready. I mean, it's a bit unfair, to be honest. It was just a day out, a Saturday night out, or a Saturday day out with the two of us. Give them shit. Yeah. But you see, what you do is you pick your times. Because that's a time, if I just randomly do that on a Tuesday morning, that's a motivational speech, which I don't do motivation, as you know, I don't believe in it, you know what I mean? But that's not what it is. But that'll piss them off so much that they'll react against it, and then they'll react with it, you know? We're not going to have and if you really simplify that with clients, the client who doesn't come back is reacting against it. Until they react with it and then come back. I think it's potential based, and I think it is vision based, and it's your own, believing your own momentum. Whenever you see your potential, not even in business, just in general, when you see it, you kind of go, I can't do that. And you have a decision then, going forward. Do you go for it, or do you hide from the fact that you really want it? And this comes back to the clients as well. Inevitably, some face it and go, no, this is literally it and I want it, we're going right now. But things do take time. I think it's more fear of failure. That's my honest. I'm trying something new. I'm failing. I'm failing just for. I mean, obviously, if you're trying the same thing and failing, we've already discussed that. Yeah. But if you're trying, I think the fear of failure is great, and I think once again it's framed in a way, because the bottom line is you don't fail till you give up. No. That's the problem. People will fail at something, and instead of saying, well, I'm going to do it in a different way, I'm going to manoeuvre myself out, I'm going to keep trying to achieve, but in this way, they'll go, okay, well, yeah. And you know this one, well, give it a shot. Yeah. I tried, and then it's just done. I see that fear. I love the way you think can be counterbalanced. People just love their stagnation because it's so comfortable. They don't fear failure. They're accepting. No, I think no, because you say it's so comfortable. It's because familiar is the word. Familiar, okay, so familiar, fantastic. But failure hurts. Failure is an uncomfortable truth that you have to face again. Yes. It's like, I failed. Yeah. And the thing is, what you should be doing is, I failed because
Yeah.
That's the thing, but people don't. It's accountability again. That's what we talk about. I failed because, well,
Yeah.
and it's not because he or because she or because it or because they. No, it's something you did. It's always something you did. It's always your decision. Something else may have impacted it, but it's always your decision. So that's an uncomfortable truth to face, and that's you don't want to face that. No one wants to face that. I mean, they don't, but the ability to face it will make you stronger and better. And in business, that's how you grow. I mean, there's going to be very few people that haven't had setbacks in business, you know? And the question is, do you take that setback and go, okay, well, let's just stay in our lane where we are? Or do you take that setback and say, okay, the game's not over yet, let's go again. And I know what we say about trying the same thing over and over again. It sounds like I'm literally arguing against myself, but it's not. Trying the same thing and failing is very different to trying and achieving in time. Finding a way.
Yeah.
I don't even like the word trying that much. But you know what you want to achieve, and it's going to take. So the first phase, right? I mean, literally, I know this. I mean, there's so many of these things. It is like riding a bike. The first time you fall off a bike as a kid, your dad does it or your mum doesn't turn around to you and go, "Forget it. Let's scrub that. Right, no more. Give it a good shot, didn't we?"
Yeah.
No.
No.
You know, what do? You get back on the bike.
Yeah.
And you'll probably fall off another dozen times.
Yeah.
And then you can ride it. But people tend to forget that lesson. It's like, oh, I fell. Well, pick yourself up then, dude.
Yeah. Trust the process.
Trust. Well, thank you very much indeed for that, and good morning.
Did you enjoy it?
You like me, I love the sound of my fucking voice. I've got a